Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Lauren Burgess, Senior Management Analyst. Tonight, I'm presenting the final package for the proposed 2026 transactions and use tax measure, also known as the sales tax. This presentation summarizes the fiscal context, the measure's structure, accountability provisions, and the actions before you this evening. Tonight's item asks the council to take several formal steps required to place a measure on the November ballot. These include presenting the final ballot measure package, requesting council approval to submit a 1% transaction and use tax to voters, approving the ballot question, directing the town attorney to prepare the impartial analysis, providing for ballot arguments and rebuttals, and introducing the ordinance that would establish the tax pending voter approval. Windsor has maintained strong service levels for decades, but our long-term fiscal challenges have intensified. Costs for public safety, maintenance, and operations are now outpacing our revenues. In the fiscal year 25-27 budget, the town had to implement $6 million in reductions. The most significant impact was the reduction of the 3 police officer positions. We also deferred $5 million in maintenance and relied on $8 million in one-time reserves just to maintain service levels. And unlike many cities, Windsor has no locally controlled sales tax. We only receive the Bradley-Burns share. This limits our ability to sustain essential services moving forward. A 1% transaction and use tax meets Windsor's revenue needs at a majority vote threshold. Without new revenue, we face a projected $4 to $5 million annual deficit beginning in 27-28 fiscal year, with reserves exhausted by 2029. That trajectory would mean for fewer police officers, slower response times, deteriorating roads, potential park closures, and reductions to youth, senior, and community programs. With the measure, Windsor would generate approximately $5.7 million annually in new, locally controlled revenue, funding police and emergency response, street infrastructure, maintenance, and parks and community service. From December 2025 through really present, our community engagement has consistently emphasized the themes of protecting essential services and to ensure strong, visible accountability. Residents made it clear that trust in any revenue measure depends on how transparently the town manages its public funds. In response, the council and staff went beyond what is legally required for a general tax. Independent annual audits and Citizens Oversight Commission are not mandated under state law. They were added because the council believes accountability must be built into the measure from day one. The Oversight Commission will review revenues, expenditures, and project progress, and will report publicly to ensure funds remain 100% locally controlled and used responsibly. In June, the council also adopted a broader accountability framework policy, which includes public reporting and updates on how revenues support core services. This framework reflects the council's longstanding commitment to transparency, fiscal stewardship, and maintaining the community's trust. The ordinance before you tonight establishes the 1% transactions and use tax and outlines key provisions. It defines the operative date, beginning the first day of the quarter of more than 110 days after voter approval. It specifies the place of sale and tax rate, adopts relevant state law provisions, and includes exemptions and exclusions. And to be clear, these exemptions follow statewide rules and ensure the tax does not apply to essentials such as groceries or prescription medications. These protections are built into California law and remain unchanged under this measure. As mentioned, it also establishes the Citizens Oversight Commission, and requires annual independent audits. If approved, the local sales tax remains in effect until ended by voters. This is the proposed ballot question. It clearly communicates the purpose of the measure, maintaining essential local services such as street repair, neighborhood police patrols, emergency response, parks and community events, and disaster preparedness. It also states the tax rate, the estimated annual revenue of $5.7 million, and the accountability requirements, independent audits, citizens oversight, and local control of all funds. Here is the implementation timeline. Following council action tonight, ballot materials will be submitted to the Registrar of Voters, and the town attorney will prepare the impartial analysis. And under Elections Code, the council is authorized to designate one or more of its members to prepare the argument in favor of the measure. That designation will occur during this period, so the assigned council member can prepare this and submit the argument by the statutory deadline. The argument filing period opens and closes per elections code, with direct arguments due August 14th and rebuttals due August 21st. The county will administer the consolidated election on November 3rd, 2026. Staff recommends that the council adopt the resolution ordering the measure to be submitted to the voters at the November 3rd, 2026 general municipal election. Direct the town attorney to prepare the impartial analysis, authorize the preparation of ballot arguments and rebuttals, and introduce the ordinance establishing the 1% transactions and use tax to be administered by the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration, subject to majority voter approval. And this concludes the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions and take any comments or provide any further detail. Prior to taking any action, I just want to be clear that we should designate a council member or members to prepare the argument in favor of.
Thank you very much. At this time, we're going to start with questions, and then I'll open up to the public, and then we'll come back for discussion. So any questions from the council to staff? No questions? Councilmember Wall? I'll go ahead and open it.
No questions, but I'll have some comments when we get to that point.
Okay, perfect. So I'll go ahead and open up to the public. Any members of the public wishing to speak, make a comment regarding this item, approach the podium. You have 3 minutes. State your name if you'd wish. Thank you. Please approach. Yes.
Oops. Sorry. Things loose. Good evening, council and staff. I'm John Leba. I live with my wife and family here in Windsor. I have written you, given comments, and attended many community meetings, a couple workshops, and several presentations about our fiscal situation and the proposal for a 1% sales tax increase. Tonight, I speak as chair of a new general purpose committee we have formed in Windsor to engage in issue advocacy for fiscal and governmental reform. Our group is called Concerned Windsor Citizens. We come from all over the political spectrum and all walks of life. People who live here and care deeply what happens here in this council chamber and here in the town we all love. We are concerned about the direction of town government and our leaders who have known about our structural deficit since at least 2021. For years, the town continued to increase salaries and benefits, add positions, promote staff, and increase spending with little discussion of affordability or financial offsets, how to pay for it all. The recent hiring freeze and work deferral does nothing to unwind prior increases, which also compound pension liabilities. You heard our testimonies for months. Several of our members, in fact, have raised concerns for years. All of us have continued to engage in dialogue throughout the process. After consideration, we oppose a 1% forever sales tax. The proposal before you has never changed. No compromise at all since we started. 1% forever sales tax. Other options were reviewed, but they were always presented as straw man arguments, immediately discounted rather than put into a basket of reforms. This item won't generate enough to cover our full deficit. But complex problems are rarely resolved with one simple solution, and we don't think this is going to pass, and your own data said it wouldn't. We have not seen a good faith effort, which would look like compromise. Some limits, sunset to this tax, like I said, a basket of reforms. One thing concerned Windsor citizens all agreed on was this. We can never support a tax with no sunset and no regular review by voters. In fact, the ordinance before you on page 7 says specifically in section 26230 that the tax may be amended by the city council without a vote of the people. What? Our group is active and experienced. Collectively, we have worked as volunteers, organizers, consultants, managers, and sometimes as a candidate for at least 24 campaigns over 50 years. We will be working on this issue and other issues like the coming council and mayor races and beyond. We can be reached at the following email address, concerned.windsor.ca@gmail.com. Again, concerned.windsor.ca@gmail.com. We, concerned Windsor citizens, are here to stay and will remain active regardless of election results. We ask you to limit this tax proposal to a term of no more than 5 years. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public? If you don't mind, you please line up. We can move a little faster. If you line up. Or we can stay here till 11.
Take numbers next time.
Okay, if no one approaches the podium, I'm going to close public comment.
Council members, staff, my name is John Broughton. My wife and I have been Windsor residents since 2012. The group that I am now part of, Concerned Windsor Citizens, first met in December of last year. We were not happy with how the town council and town staff were managing the town's fiscal affairs. We have concluded that the current town council has completely failed its fiscal responsibilities. Until last year, there was no indication that members of the town council took seriously a consultant's report issued in 2021, 5 years ago, that the town faced a fiscal structural deficit, that the town needed to act to increase revenues and decrease costs. Instead, the council sat on its hands for 4 years as additional staff positions were created and filled. Staff positions were reclassified upwards. Annual salary step increases for staff were essentially treated as automatic, and nothing was done about the excessive number of supervisory positions within the town staff. And as the town slid toward the current fiscal crisis, the council annually gave a bonus to the current town manager. In addition to neglecting long-term fundamental problems, particularly excessive personnel costs, the current town council seems to have had little or no focus on the question of why the town's general fund balance swung from an increase of about $400,000 for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024, to a decrease of about $2.7 million for the year ending June 30th, 2025. That's a shift of about $3 million in a single year, which is more than 10% of the budget. What changed? And as importantly, when should the council have started dealing with the change? The two largest changes were an increase of $2.2 million for police services, a 27% jump, and a $1 million increase in general government costs, a jump of 25%. A fiscally responsible town council would have gotten details, for example, about the sharp increase in overhead assessed by the sheriff's department. And then they would have discussed what to do about these, could possibly be done about these two large cost increases. This council did not do that. In summary, the Concerned Windsor Citizens Group is against a permanent 1% increase in the sales tax in Windsor because we believe that the town staff and town council have been unwilling or unable to examine the root causes of the town's current fiscal problems. Instead, staff and the council are proposing to paper over the deficit, asking Windsor residents to pay more in taxes with no demonstration of fiscal responsibility and certainly no guarantee that no more taxes will be a permanent, certainly a guarantee that more taxes, this increase in taxes will be a permanent fix for the town's fiscal problems.
I'm not paying attention.
Hi, thank you, council members. This is Teresa Hendricks, and I live in Sam's district. And I came here to let you know there are a lot of people who support putting the 1 cent per dollar spent, 1% sales tax on the ballot until such time as removed by a citizen measure approved by the voters. I can tell you that we already have a great group of retired professionals who want to campaign for this for you. And you can reach us at windsorisworthit@gmail.com. And you can look for a website coming up at windsorisworthit.org to give everybody the facts about the sales tax and why we should vote for it and why we should pass this sales tax. We feel that in all the meetings you've held over the past year, we have gotten more than enough documentation of the rise in external costs and forces that are forcing Windsor to put this on the ballot if we want to keep our town as beautiful and great a place to live as it is now. And let me just say, I think this makes sense to put this on the ballot. Really, it's a protection for all of us. And our property values, because as we were just discussing, homes are generally the biggest asset that a family or a person owns. If our town gets tattered and goes downhill, so do our investments in our homes and any price that we might want to sell them for in the future. And more importantly, there's a danger that we may not be as safe a town as we have always been. We may not have anywhere near the quality of parks that we have always had and recreation programs we have always had for our kids. These are the reasons most people moved here to Windsor, because it's a great place. It's a great place to call your new hometown or your forever hometown. And we want to keep it that way. A safe, family-friendly, well-kept town for all of us. So you do have people who support this, and I encourage you to put it on the ballot as written, and then you can let the voters of Windsor decide, and I'm sure it'll be interesting. Thank you.
Hi, Betsy Malice, Flame Tree Circle. In October of last year, the executive team of the town, which I didn't even know there was one, and I was even more surprised to learn that each of them earns between $200,000 and $350,000 a year. They invited myself and some others to a meeting to discuss Windsor's fiscal outlook. I was told then that they wanted the residents' feedback, but they shared that the solution was a 1% non-sunsetting sales tax. Tonight, 9 months later, this council is voting on a ballot measure for a 1% non-sunsetting sales tax. Staff was told to not spend money on a consultant. At least 2 of the council members requested that the issue just be put on the ballot and to let the voters speak for themselves. Can you advise how many hours and how much salary was used by staff working on this ballot measure? This also doesn't include the $50,000 that was spent on a professional survey whose results were never presented to the council and whose results found that the measure, in fact, did not have enough support to pass. Doesn't also include the $27,000 to put the ballot on the measure on the ballot. I've not seen good faith by this town council to truly control expenses. The town has spent a lot of money on a new ERP software system that was supposed to save up to 20% of staff time and labor, but expenses, salaries, and benefits just keep increasing. The town stated that there's been a hiring freeze for at least 6 months, yet we're still employing a full-time HR recruitment specialist. Why? Is that money really being spent wisely? You keep telling people a new tax would bring back the 3 vacant police positions and keep our parks looking nicer. But the ballot actually reads, "and for government use," even though that was not verbally stated in the presentation. So it could be used for more staff, for more benefits, for more raises, or it could be used to backfill the money that's already been spent. This council, or any future council, could decide to use it on anything they wanted, including giving yourselves a raise, which has been suggested by past councils. Since 2019, when it was announced that we were heading towards a fiscal deficit, I do not think the council has been good stewards of the taxpayers' money. I don't think you've made the hard decisions to really reduce spending. I think it was just too easy to keep spending our money. I don't think more taxes will fix bad governance. I don't think that more taxes will correct overspending. I've talked to friends and neighbors, and many do agree with me. I am part of Concerned Windsor Citizens, and if anybody agrees with me or wants to talk to me, they can email me at concernedwindsorca@gmail.com. Thank you for listening.
Anybody else from the public? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public comment and bring it back to council for discussion. I guess we could start with probably the easy one. I am very interested in being part of that, writing in favor, is it argument? In
Yes.
favor? So if we could maybe discuss that first. There's 2 openings for that. Is anyone else interested?
I would also like to be considered for that one.
Councilmember Leap or Salmon or Wall, do you guys have?
How many people can be involved? How many council people can be involved?
And Mayor, if I may, so there is the common practices for council, less than a quorum. There is obviously an argument that placing an item on the ballot or after the council votes today, it's not city business anymore. It's going to have to, we can't use city funds. So there is an argument that all the council can participate, but I think the recommendation is to have less than a quorum to avoid any type of arguments related to the Brown Act, even though it's an election matter. So that's why the recommendation, it had 2 blanks for up to two individuals.
So Councilmember Leap or Wall or Councilmember Salmon, are you guys?
I'd like to be involved. I mean, I think the wording in some ways of the argument it means everything, but, so we can make nominations and vote, I suppose. Or can we have a workshop put together?
No, after you place the item so if tonight the council decided to vote on the resolution placing the item on the ballot, we couldn't use city resources to in any way promote or campaign.
And writing the argument would be
That would be done on kind of everybody's own
looking
time
like promoting,
or campaigning.
campaigning.
I would be willing to relinquish it to you, Sam, if the mayor and you'd like to write it. I mean, obviously they don't have to be written together, but
No, they'd be separate.
they'd be separate arguments, but it would be 2 then.
It would be one, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh,
It would actually be one argument.
okay.
So it'd be working together on the argument. So the way, just to recap, we would have the law does give priority to an argument, especially if the council designates its members or certain amount of its members or 1, 2 of its members, that argument gets priority for being the argument in favor. Anybody could, or other groups can oppose and do an argument against, and then there's rebuttal arguments that could be submitted. So the individual or individuals selected council or council members selected to write the argument would also be writing the rebuttal. But it's collective. It's one argument, one rebuttal.
I'd be happy to defer to others. I've had my day in the sun recently, so I think that I'll follow Tanya's lead, which is to defer.
I couldn't hear, so
No,
I said, go ahead, Sam and Rosa.
Vice Mayor and Mayor and Councilmember Salmon.
And-
He's okay with,
It's okay with me to stay out of it.
okay. But it's still,
Mayor,
still 3.
yes, Councilmember Wall.
so do we need to, and I don't mean to be the thorn in the side here, but do we need to designate someone to write the rebuttal then?
That's what we're trying to do here.
No,
Right.
not the
It's all
rebuttal.
one
I mean,
piece.
It's not the
No,
rebuttal.
It's
no.
all one.
It's
Yeah.
all one.
The same folks you select to do the arguments are the same same folks that also do the rebuttal.
That seems a little,
No, I think Councilmember Wall is talking about against the
Oh,
sales tax.
No, the rebuttal is against the people who are against the tax.
Right.
It's not against the tax. It's
So,
in favor of the tax.
Councilmember Wall, can you clarify your
Yeah,
request?
I'm asking, and I apologize if I'm missing the point here. So if we're writing the pros to passing this tax as council members, I'm wondering, is there an opportunity for someone to be designated to write the cons?
So good question, Councilmember. The arguments against, those are, anybody could prepare those arguments. The council doesn't designate folks to do the argument against, only the argument in favor, since you are placing the measure on the ballot. And then,
We haven't voted yet.
Okay.
Sorry, I think I jumped the gun.
Since we're placing it on the ballot, we can only argue in favor of it? Is that what you're saying?
The council is placing it on it, so the council is making arguments in favor. Correct.
So I guess I just fundamentally have a problem with that because I want this on the ballot so people can vote on it, but that doesn't mean I'm necessarily in favor of it.
That's pretty obvious.
And that's anyone, Councilmember Wall can write a rebuttal. So if you want to on your own write a rebuttal against it, that's something that you can do, but the council doesn't designate people to specifically write a rebuttal.
Okay, so the council's only gonna write something officially supporting this.
Correct.
How is the rebuttal to the council's argument chosen? Because it's a limit of words, right?
Correct. So let me just kind of go over it. Just, sorry, again, I'm maybe confusing people. When you place a measure, a tax measure, or in this case, on the ballot, you can designate on who you want to do the argument in favor. Somebody from the public or somebody else, whoever it may be, can draft, whether it's an organization, a voter, can prepare an argument against. Once the argument in favor and the argument against are received, and the argument against, there are rules for priority in case there's multiple arguments against. There's rules for priority, and our town clerk, as the election official, ends up selecting it. Then now you have an argument in favor, argument against. Then there's an opportunity for both sides to rebut the arguments that were received. The argument in favor, the group submitting the argument against could rebut. And for the folks that submitted the argument in favor could rebut the argument against. The limit for the rebuttal, the limit for the arguments in favor and against are 300 words. Rebuttal arguments are 250 words. And so it's a short, it's not a pages and pages. There's a word limit. And there's also a time limit, a time requirement, a due date. Arguments in favor and against are due August 14th. The rebuttal arguments will be due August 21st. Aside from that, the town attorney, I would be tasked under the resolution, if the council adopts it, to also prepare an impartial analysis. The impartial analysis is factual. It's impartial. The law requires it to be impartial, just factual for the voters. And that would also be submitted, and you normally see that as an impartial analysis as part that accompanies the election material. Hopefully I
And the
provided
date for
detail.
that is in the resolution?
The date for the impartial analysis, and we were going to get that. That's actually, the county sets those dates. That's not in the resolution, but we follow the county. It's August 14th as well. It's when the arguments in favor and against are. And that's, the county ends up putting those dates as well.
So remind me again, so we're going to obviously, I don't know if there's discussion about this, but someone's going to make a motion on this. So once that, if it passes, once that's done, then is the town not allowed to share facts and information anymore on their website, or can they do that?
No, that's another great question. So what you're prohibited from doing is campaigning, spending city or town resources on the campaigning, but that doesn't prevent us from providing information, just factual information where, obviously when things get put out, our office looks at it as well to make sure that the wording doesn't go into anything that could be translated into campaigning, but you are allowed to provide information, whether on the website, some jurisdictions provide mailers, et cetera.
So for example, tonight I heard some comments that I don't necessarily agree with. So for example, would I be able to ask the town clerk or the town manager to put on the website things that this council, this body has not approved to spend money on? Like the Kaiser Park master plan, we've said, no, we're not moving forward with that, or any other things. Would we be able to show where we are in the last 4 or 5 years, but tried to be fiscally responsible?
And Mayor, if there are questions regarding the council actions, those are factual on what the council has voted on and not voted on. Those are definitely, if we're answering questions or any questions that are out there, those would be facts, or factual no, we haven't voted on this. Yes, the council has voted on that. Those are things on the record.
But is that a request that we can make to you to put on is there going to be a page in the town website to?
Yeah, we'll maintain the webpage for factual educational data points. And I mean, technically, the actions that you've already taken in the past to demonstrate your fiscal responsibility is already on the website within, agenda packets and minutes. So there is that too. So it does exist.
Right.
Mhm.
And Mayor, but I think that we're talking about summarizing that the council has done so many actions to reduce our spending over the last 4 years.
Yes.
And we have not approved many things, including significant infrastructure projects that we are seeing huge issues with because we haven't paved our roads because they've been extremely expensive. And so that summary can go on to that page.
Yeah, we would be
Pay summary?
looking, we would definitely we could look at kind of summaries of different things that the council has done. I would take a look at it as far as how it reads. Again, pushing out information that potentially has been asked for in the public versus anything that sounds like a campaign or definitely you wouldn't see anything that vote yes on or anything like that. And we would look at language to make sure that it doesn't cross the line, and it would just be information.
Similar to some of the frequently asked questions that we currently have posted on the website. Those are questions that we've heard over the process over the past 6 to 8 months, and we've provided those answers factually and include those on the website. And if there were any others, we could do that as well.
Okay. All right, I guess.
If I could, Mayor, just to clarify, I believe that I heard that there was some council consensus that on the argument on behalf of the council could be provided through Rosa and the mayor and council member Salmon.
You're good with that?
I heard it.
You and I to do the argument for.
The argument. And we can ask for assistance for facts.
If there's information regarding just facts that you have that are available, those are readily available to anybody, to members of the public. If anybody wanted to ask questions, of course, we would normally answer questions, factual questions.
The other council members would not be able to get a review of the statement until it's submitted and was the same time everyone else.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Just want to make sure. Well,
Okay.
Rosa, are you comfortable with me or would you be more comfortable with Tanya?
I'm thinking about the ballot and I'm thinking about the people reading it and what it would appear if it said mayor and vice mayor. But you're well known, people respect you. So I'm okay either way. If you feel that strongly and you want to be a part of it, vice mayor has said that she would let you do it. I'm fine. Yeah, you want to be a part of it?
I would.
Okay, let's do it then.
Okay.
Is that fine? Let's work, so we're good. Yeah. Okay. So,
I think we can answer your question.
no, we
but-
can't. The public comment.
After the meeting.
Public comments closed.
Yeah.
Sorry. I would have, yeah. Is someone ready to make a motion or do you guys want to discuss?
And I think, Rosa, could I ask one more
Mhm,
question?
Of course.
Rosa and I, we can engage the community in writing this. That's the question. I can't see why not.
If you had questions for the community and you're writing of an argument, I mean, that is up to, I'll leave that up to you if you wanted to ask questions, but that's if you needed additional information.
I just want to, I just want to, if we look at that and an organization comes forward, we can engage them.
Okay.
And you also have as designated to write the argument. There are also, I will point out, the argument can be signed by 5 individuals. Usually what you have in a lot of jurisdictions is it could be members of the public that could sign
That's
the argument as well. But I know that those election rules are in the elections office
Okay,
for the, for writing of arguments and arguments against as well, and rebuttals. Those
Okay.
are, the elections official would have the rules on those arguments.
okay. So, yeah,
Okay, so it can be
You-
signed by 5. I
yeah.
mean, that's, we'll need assistance in terms of, finding how to make
okay.
the most accurate statement.
Hey, Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Wall.
So before we close discussion, and I know you're going to move to to ask for a statement or a resolution. Are we still having discussion here?
Yeah, we're still having discussion. Yeah.
So can I, if you don't mind, I'd just like to share that I just want to make sure that folks know that there's a significant portion of the population in Windsor, by polling data and just by anecdotal conversations, that is not in favor of this, right? So we know that, and that's why we want to vote on this, and that's why I was in favor of putting this on the ballot, even though I'm not in favor of it passing, because I want transparency and I want people to have the voice. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that the reason a lot of folks are against this is because a couple of things. One is that every single ballot measure, like not every single, sorry, that's an exaggeration. Almost every single ballot measure for the last 20 years has had a tax increase proposed on it. And there's always a great reason. It's early childhood education. It's we need to fix the schools. It's we need to fund the fire department. And there's always a great, philosophical bleeding heart reason why we need more taxes. But I'm just going to, for the record, I just want to run through, and if you'll tolerate me, I greatly appreciate it, and I'll be quick. Here's just a list of the taxes we currently pay, and I think it's important for the record. So currently, if you live in Windsor, you are subject to federal income tax, the California state income tax, Social Security tax, Medicare, an additional Medicare tax if you're a high wage earner, federal long-term capital gains tax, the California tax on capital gains, net investment income taxes, property taxes, which is a big one for us. Obviously, everyone knows property taxes, the Mello-Roos special assessments, parcel taxes, California's the sales tax for California. We have vehicle registrations, vehicle license fees, transportation improvement fees, smog inspection fees. If you have, like me, a dog, you got a dog license fees, fishing license, hunting license, business license, concealed carry permit fees, federal estate taxes, gift taxes, early retirement withdrawal penalties, federal fuel taxes, California fuel taxes, an alcohol excise taxes, tobacco taxes, cannabis taxes. We got TOT, obviously, if you stay here. We got the 911 surcharge, a boat registration, and there's more. I'm not going to take everyone's whole night. It goes on and on. There's building permits, marriage and divorce fees, passport fees, professional licensing fees, Airbnb. We've talked about this a ton. If you run an Airbnb, you got trust and estate taxes, payroll taxes, property transfer taxes. I'm going to stop here. The list is, it's unbelievable. It goes on and on. I'm like not even a third of the way through my list. So I'm just going to leave it there, that this is why people don't want another tax. And I know we say Windsor's worth it and we need it for this and we need it for that. At some point you have to say no. And there's a big portion of people who are ready to say no more. So that's my soapbox and I'll get off of it.
So I really appreciate that, but I do have to do a rebuttal. A lot of those were self-imposed expenses, and a few of those were stuff that I don't have the luxury of having, that you mentioned. They were for high wage earners and some kind of luxury tax stuff and boats. And
Yeah, totally.
don't
If
have
you have the luxury of a
I'm
boat
not
or the
even there.
luxury of a dog
I'm
or the
not- I'm
luxury
not-
of wanting to go hunting,
No.
yeah, I get it. But
So
those are
thank
still
you.
all taxes and fees
But
that
no,
you could potentially think.
I thank you. Thank you for sharing that. But I did have to. Anyways, anyone else have
That's not the
a,
point. That's not, this is
comment?
not, this was not, I didn't know this was a rebuttal. I didn't know this was a debate. I was just sharing my,
it's a
because
discussion.
if there's
We're in this-
rebuttals, I would love to debate these all.
we're
We can go line item by line item and debate
we're
them.
in
That's where we are.
discussion, so I appreciate it. Thank you. Anyone else want to share some thoughts before I request a motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So over my years, I've been involved in, I don't know, I'm going to guess 6 different businesses, small ones, women's retail, nationwide computer retail businesses, manufacturers. And I've worked with a lot of people. I've had so much fun working with the people in the government here in Windsor because they are honest, they're hardworking, they care about the town, and they do a great job. There's been a lot of smack thrown out here tonight. Not a lot, but somewhat. And I'm just throw out, for example, the town manager has been getting a bonus. That's just not true. The town manager's salary is, if I understand it correctly, 95% of the industry average for his position. So the actual facts are not as so many people portray them when they put them out with nobody to fact check for them. So when I came in here, the town was already trying to figure out how to get the taxes and the expenditures in order. And the first meeting, one of the very first meetings I went to in April of 25 was to analyze the budgetary problems and attack this thing. And right after the summer after that, town manager John Davis and his team went after it with a vengeance. And that's has been my experience as I have been watching this business of the town of Windsor move forward. And anyone who says to the contrary does not understand what's actually going on internally and the analysis that is being done in order to bring the financial situation of the town in order. And I fear, I don't fear actually, because I believe that the tax is going to pass. But I fear the people who are gloom and doom because they just simply do not see what is actually going on internally and what is actually coming down the road, and we're going to go fix it. So I want people to be very sincere when they analyze what's going on in the government in town.
Vice Mayor?
I love working here.
Vice Mayor?
All right, thank you. I want to thank all the new group, the Concerned Citizens of Windsor. I appreciate you guys coming and giving public comment. And Councilmember Wall knows that I agree with him on taxes. I hate the amount of federal income tax I have to pay because it's established not on some of the incomes that we have in the state of California. So we are taxed more because we have higher incomes here in California. Plus, we also have our California state income tax, which is not being spent in any way the way that I would like for it to be spent. But the reason why I support this local tax is because it's just that it's local, and I do support my local town. I don't like the way that my federal taxes are being spent or my state taxes, but I know that here in the town of Windsor, we have a say, and we can say what happens, and we do listen to our constituents, and we have made significant changes in the way that we do things. And we listen, I listen to Betsy every single meeting. And I appreciate the feedback, and we ask for as much feedback as we can get from our constituents here, because what you want is important, but also there is a money problem, and we have been making cuts for a long time. When I first came onto council 4 years ago, we were watching very closely because that was right coming out of COVID, and there was significant inflation, and there were a lot of problems across all sorts of money issues. There was a huge reduction in our tourism because everything was shut down, and so we had changes in our TOT taxes, and there was a lot of fluctuation there. And so as the years have continued, we have really pulled back because we've trying to watch the bounce back from COVID, the inflation, the significant increases in insurance, and the increased cost of asphalt, and So trying to manage those while not seeing our revenue go up as high as those costs have been is significant. And we have made those cuts. And I understand that there's a concern about a tax measure. But again, like I said, I don't like taxes. I hate when other people spend the money that I worked hard on. But here locally, I believe that with our advisory commission that our advisory commission that we're putting into play with the tax measure, if it's to pass, and the community input that we have, we can make the changes that are going to address the deficits that we have, the significant amount of deferred maintenance that we have accumulated over the last couple of years because we've had to put those things aside. And even the amount of money that we project that we will get with the 1% sales tax doesn't 100% fix the deferred maintenance. There's going to have to be more cuts going forward. Even if we have a tax measure, we are going to have to make cuts and we are going to have to change and make more efficiencies because we can't just, and this is a problem that I talk about with my coworkers because I see huge problems with Santa Rosa where you can't just continue down this road without making changes. Like we're asking for a tax measure, but we're not going to keep asking for tax measures. The state of California can't keep doing that. We can't keep spending, and then just raising taxes. We have to make the changes, and I want Windsor to make those changes, and that's my plan is to make those changes, and that's what I'm hoping for going forward, and I hope that I'll be able to be part of that for the next 2 years, is to make significant changes to address our issues, to have a tax measure to help us out with that, and to address our deferred maintenance, and to really address our economic impact going forward and how we can develop economically to have more revenue for the town. So we never, ever have to ask for a tax measure again. And hopefully in the future, the residents do repeal it. That would be like a once in a lifetime ever happening in the state of California, would be to have a town to repeal a tax measure, because now there's a reason. And I would love to have in the future be like, staff is recommending a tax repeal. That would be amazing, right? And so I want to be part of those goals, but right this minute, because of some of the turmoil that we've had over the past, 6-7 years, we have more going out than we have coming in. And that's not poor stewardship. It's been just a whole roller coaster. And so I am asking for this tax measure. And I am asking for the trust in the community that we will spend it wisely with the direction of the community. And so that's my hope.
Councilmember Salmon?
Yeah, I wanted to just, the issue of the 10-year sunset. And I guess the question would you change your no vote if we had a 10-year sunset? Would you change your no vote if we had a 5-year? And I see one hand, but I think that the analysis is that no, that's not really going to be the key. And I think tonight it's pretty obvious. The key is going to be the council, and that means going back to 2021 as a negligent in their financing and their duty. And that's what's going to be presented. And that's why we can't take a tax, is because you get the money, you're just going to continue to spend it negligently. And that's what will gather the votes. Concerned citizens for Windsor. I got on council in the same Citizens for Better Windsor, and was elected based on not me, but on that issue. And that's what we'll be looking at. And I think we just want, the idea is there's going to be a number of people that are against taxes. And I just, it'll be hard not to get defensive when you say, I was on council the whole time, so you're pointing at me. We work with staff as a team. We're part of that team to a certain extent. And it's important that we support staff and support the efforts. And I think, I've done the best I can. I'm certainly far from perfect. But it seems like we presented the argument. We'll present the argument to people, and they'll have that choice. In the Press Democrat, just this afternoon, the latest article of Santa Rosa is going to put a tax measure on their ballot in November and go to 10.5% if approved. They're at 10 and a quarter now, but that quarter cent is going to run out. So they will be equal if it passes with Sebastopol, which is over the state limit. So it's hard to deal with the inflation and cost of things and say you were negligent, Sam, in the councils you were on. Especially if I look out and see a lot of people that are saying that they're not the ones that are going to suffer from a 1% sales tax. You're not going to feel it. Sorry. I'm not going to feel it. Sorry.
So I believe that today's staff and council is way different. I know it is than the staff and council that was here 5+ years past. It's so different. And it's so different. And one of the first town ribbon cutting ceremonies that I had, they passed me a script and I'm like, oh wow, they included this in the script. So I stood there at the roundabout to read the script. And I mentioned the $300,000 a year bond we have to pay for 30 years for that roundabout. That I didn't vote on that roundabout, or I think I had to vote on the final version. But anyways, somehow we got there to having to have that beautiful roundabout for that expensive bill. And then there's a property that was purchased with general fund money. That was, again, something that as a resident, I didn't support. Today we get bids for asphalt. The low bids, they come in, residents hate it, have to go back and fix it. Right now, people are arguing about the flock, which I'm listening to them. They don't like the flock cameras. They want us to get rid of the flock cameras. So does that mean we need to get more police officers because we're not going to have that additional, so there's this whole game that like, okay, you don't like this, so what's an alternative? But I mean, again, it does feel personal being told that we're not, doing a good job, which, I guess I have to look back and reflect on what I've done the last 4 or 5 years, if not a good job, but with finances. So, but again, the beautiful part of this, Councilmember Wall, is that again we're bringing it to the residents. They're going to vote. They have the ultimate say, and this has been a long process, and I've felt really good about staff. I think you guys did what with the money we had to spend, and all the salaried employees worked extra hard. There was no overtime pay. Salaried employees did the majority of the work, so thank you so much to everyone for this. So at this time, I'll leave it with that and entertain a motion.
You want me to state it?
Please.
I think I've got the language in front of me.
And
Right here?
yes,
Yeah,
and
okay.
there are two separate, there's going to be two separate motions for today. There's going to be a resolution, and then there's going to be the introduction of an ordinance. And just for the technical aspect of the ordinance will be introduced today. The ordinance will come back for the second reading, just like your ordinances normally do. However, the ordinance will not will not be in effect unless it's passed by the voters. So that's important to point out, even though it looks like just a typical ordinance, the approval process, it is contingent on the voters' approval. So we'll go through that. The resolution itself has the authorizing for the ballot arguments, and authorizing town council to designate members to prepare primary arguments and rebuttal in favor. To answer Councilmember Wall's question, theoretically, under the elections code is written in a way that if the body wanted to authorize other members of the council to write arguments against, The issue with that obviously is you're putting, it wouldn't be recommended usually, because if you're putting an item on the ballot, you're assuming the majority is in favor, and that's why you normally designate folks to write an argument in favor. Just wanted to point that out. You wouldn't be, it opens up to arguments of obviously of trying to game the system by controlling both arguments. Therefore, members of the public wouldn't be able to write arguments against. I don't mean to confuse the issue. I just know it came up, so I wanted to clarify, because the election code does have that opening, but it's not traditionally done, because the town council, if you control both arguments, there's an argument of, are people that are against it, are they able to actually argue against it? So two motions, council member.
So I understand that. Are you saying that we're going to have argument in favor, argument against, rebuttal against, the rebuttal against the argument in favor, and rebuttal against the argument against?
Yes, both
And
sides get to rebut.
In terms of the committee, does it have to be the same two that write? I think
Yes.
you said that.
Yes, that's what we're
Okay.
recommending.
And how about with the opposition? The same rules apply?
Yes, because it's the authors
Makes sense.
of the original arguments that get to rebut the other arguments.
Okay, ready? I'd like the motion to adopt a resolution, one, ordering that measures be submitted to the voters of the town of Windsor general municipal election to be held on November 3rd, 2026, to consider a 1% transaction and use tax, also referring to as a 1 cent per dollar. Two, directing the town attorney to prepare an impartial analysis of the measure. Three, provide for ballot arguments and rebuttals, including authorize the town council to designate members to prepare the preliminary argument and rebuttal in favor of the measure, consistent with election code 9282-9285. And we just go with that one?
And that'll be it. And that's to clarify what will be filled in. Council member is the mayor and council member Salmon as the two designated council members to prepare the arguments.
And that's part of the resolution?
Correct. That will be filled in, yes.
And you just put it in there. So then the mayor,
So do I have a second?
Second?
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Salmon,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Potter,
Aye.
Councilmember Leap,
Aye.
Councilmember Wall,
No.
and Mayor Reynosa.
Aye.
Second, I'd like to introduce an ordinance of the town of Windsor, adding chapter 6 to title 2 of the Windsor Municipal Code, establishing a 1% general transaction and use tax to be administered by the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration, subject to the approval of a majority of qualified electors casting votes on November 3rd, 2026 municipal election.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Salmon,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Potter,
Aye.
Councilmember Wall,
No.
Councilmember Leap,
Aye.
and Mayor Reynosa.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. Individual council member reports, comments, reports, meeting conferences. Who would like to start?
I'll go ahead and start. I went to Sonoma Clean Power Board meeting the beginning of the month, and Sonoma Clean Power Board is working on reducing